Good morning, Rockingham. You remember me. Welcome to our worship service. It's so really great to see so many people here, and a warm welcome also to those who are worshiping with us online. As I'm sure everyone here is aware, there are new procedures and guidelines brought to us courtesy of COVID-19. To begin with, anyone who needs to or would like to join us in person is asked to register with the office by 3 p.m. on Friday before the service. You can register online through a link that Sylvia will be sending out by email. In fact, I think she sent it out with this week's email on the electronic update. Or you can call the church office and register to get your name on the list so that we know we have room for everyone. We're going to also continue to live stream services for those who prefer to continue worshiping from home. Now, a few new rules I'm just going to touch on quickly, just so everybody is up to date. We ask that you wear a mask all the time you're inside the church, unless you're actually making the announcements. It's kind of a plus. And to maintain social distancing while sitting in the pews. So we ask you not to slide over to do any visiting. Just stay in your spot in the pew so we can maintain social distancing. You need to sign in or have your name ticked off as you arrive, and need contact information. This is a requirement of the Department of Health. In case there is an outbreak, they need to be able to contact everyone. At the end of the service, this is the part we haven't got to yet, and we're not sure how well it's going to work. We're going to empty the church by rows beginning at the back. So I believe the ushers are going to come and tell you, they're the ushers, waving at the back. They're going to come to your row. You can exit, if you're on the outside edge, you can exit by the outside aisles, and if you're on the inside edge, you exit by the central aisle. So the ushers will come up and tell you that it's time for your row to leave, and you leave then, and they'll work their way toward the front. Please try to remember not to stop and socialize on the way out, and no hugging. I know this is hard. It's hard for me. If you need to use the washroom, they can be reached by the elevator or the stairway as usual. Only one person is allowed into each of the washrooms at a time. We ask that after you are finished in there, you wash your hands and use the spray cleaner and paper towels to wipe any surfaces you may have touched before you exit the washroom. And please remember to flip the sign on the way in so people know it's occupied, and on the way out so people know that it's available again. We are very pleased and lucky this year to have a student minister with us, Ron Shaw, who is sitting up here in the middle, waving. Yes. He will be with us for this school year as part of his studies at AST. So welcome, Ron. We're delighted to have you join us. And there are two meetings, in-person meetings at Rockingham in the near future. This coming Wednesday, September 16th, the Pastoral Care Committee will meet here at the church at 2 p.m. And on the 29th of September, which is a Tuesday, Church Council will meet in the church hall at 7 p.m. Our opening hymn this morning is Come Let Us Sing. Please hum along or clap as the Spirit moves you.
Come let us sing to the Lord our song. We have stood silently too long. Surely the Lord deserves our praise.
There's something interesting, isn't there, about opening with "Come, let us sing," and then asking you, "Please don't sing." But you know what? We sing in our hearts, right? We are still filled with music and joy and song and praise, even though these strange times curb us a little from singing way out loud. Those of you at home, you have an advantage. Sing your hearts out. This light reminds us that we gather. There's a bit of a breeze up here. Hang on. Oh, I thought there were matches there. I'm not going to be able to manage to do it. And so we imagine a light today. We imagine that this flame glows and know that whether the flame is actually burning or not, we gather in the light of Jesus Christ. We gather with Christ at the center of all that we do, in our congregation, in our hearts, in the way we live our lives, and in our world. Will you join with me, please, in the call to worship? God be with you. Oh, my people, have you forgotten? Oh, dear. I am the one who makes you do things over again, remember? Shall we try this again? God be with you. This is the day that God has made. This is the day that God has made.
We will bring hope to those who need it, and justice where we can.
This is the day that God has made.
We will rejoice and be glad. Hi, I'm Ron, and I've already met some of you. I have been asked to mention that we will not be singing the benediction. Just a little reminder there. So let us gather in prayer. Holy Spirit, draw us in. Stir among us as we worship in pews and at kitchen tables. Inspire us as we sit at long last in the same room, united with those who join us on screen, praying and praising you together, one body in Christ. Amen. So I'm going to introduce myself.
Oh, sorry.
Is that not next on the list?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, I think it is. Yeah.
This is on mine, I apologize.
Oh, worries. My name is Ron Shaw, and if my name and my voice sound familiar, it might have something to do with my being a reporter for CTV News Atlantic for more than 30 years. My appearance may not be similar because after I retired from that, I grew this because I could. Now, that's what I used to do, but now I'm a student at the Atlantic School of Theology, and I hope, in humility, that will result in ordained ministry for me in about 5 years. I'm also a husband, a father, and a grandfather. I'm answering a call to ministry that I felt for more than 20 years. Now, I didn't give up without a fight. Facing all the challenges of adult middle-aged life, I did my best to ignore that sense of call for a long time. I eventually responded to a certain extent, becoming a licensed lay worship leader about 15 years ago, thinking that would be enough. It wasn't. I became a candidate for ministry the first time, a year or two after becoming a lay worship leader. Now, I reluctantly gave that up after being ambushed by life in a couple of different ways. You know how it goes. And moved from Moncton to Halifax, and having my employer make changes to the pension plan that forced me and quite a lot of my co-workers to postpone retirement for a number of years. In 2019, after accepting what they call or used to call a golden handshake from my employer, well, I was simply out of excuses, and I couldn't procrastinate anymore. So here I am, offering my aging, battle-scarred self in service to the Christ who walks on wounded feet. All I can do is trust God and try my best to let the Spirit light my path. I am most grateful for the privilege of serving you for the next year, at least. Thank you.
Moved by the winds of God, bearing gifts of faith, respect, and peace, charting a course for life. Moved by the winds of God, bearing gifts of faith, respect, and peace, charting a course for life.
Microphone. That's better. So like everything else, we need to do children's time. Oh. No, you're way ahead of us. You are way ahead of us, my friend. Children's time. Usually it's me that does that. I have found they are very forgiving, so all good. All good. So children's time, normally we'd come and we'd sit around the steps, but we need to be a little more distant than that. So I have two families of kids here. We can put one family at the one end of this front pew and the other end at the... do you guys want to come sit up here so I can see you? But you're welcome to come up, and you're also welcome to stay where you are. Up to you. Nobody's going to force anything. But we only have a couple of families of kids, and so I'm going to ask everybody to participate. Fair enough? Absolutely. So, my children, all, hello at home, this is you too. What's different about today from usual in church? Anyone have any ideas? Who likes their mask? Who likes their mask? I mean, nobody really likes wearing them, but who likes the one that they have? Who has a good one? I kind of like mine too. Excellent, excellent. I notice choir people are all wearing the same masks. So how cool is that? So normally when we talk about masks, you know, at Halloween we wear masks, right? Why? To get candy. Okay, so ultimate purpose to get candy. Absolutely. So people don't know who we are. We kind of hide behind our masks at Halloween, right? Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we think of masks as things that we put on so that we are hidden and people cannot see the real us. But masks have another purpose, right? When I hide from you, you can still see who I am, right? I feel like I'm hidden, but you can still tell. And so the mask is in some ways what I'm showing the world. And so the masks we put on not only hide us, but also in some ways show us and are an expression of our personality. As I look around the room, I can't tell what's on yours. What's on the mask? Butterflies? Unicorns, awesome. And flowers and bright yellow. And I see music notes and Nova Scotia tartan. All kinds of great things on your masks. My mask has two sides. Look what's on the other side. Horses. Oops, sorry. Apparently masks also push the microphone into your mouth. So In some ways, the mask also shows us to the world, right? We choose a mask that has something to do with our personality, unless we just want to go plain, which I usually choose to do, to be honest. Because pink horses, not so much my personality. But this is what we show the world. So this fall, as we wear our masks out in the world, let's be careful and choose consciously what it is we show the world, not just on our face, but from our face. As you go into the world wearing your cloth mask, I would ask you also to be conscious of what it is you put on for the world to see, because you are a child of God. You are someone who is deeply loved. And so when you get up in the morning, you have a choice. You can be grumpy, or you can say, you know what? I'm going to have a good day in spite of what just happened, because some mornings are like that. You have choices about how you live in this world. And so that which you put out to the world and show the world, make sure it's something that is good and kind and lovely and wonderful and makes the world a better place. So as you put on your mask every day to go out, make sure you also put on an attitude that says, I am loved and I'm going to love this world and live in this world as though God is mine, God is yours, God is among us. It's a very cool thing. And as usual, I can see I'm starting to lose people. It's a common theme at the end of children's time. So, all right, we're going to do a repeat after me prayer, and we are all children of God, and so I invite you, please, to repeat after me. God of grace, be with us today. Help us to be the children you would love. This is an aside. I worded that badly. You're going to forgive me for it, right? Help us to show the world your love. And to always live as people who follow Christ. Amen. Excellent. Children, I'm afraid you are not going anywhere today. Is that correct? Other than back to the pew you came from. It's a long journey. I hope you enjoy the trip. We will be starting Sunday school, I believe, in October. So we'll look forward to that down the road.
Make me a channel of your peace.
Sarah was right, by the way. I was jumping the gun on introducing myself. That was to come now instead. That's what I get for changing my usual procedure of putting everything in consecutively. Let us join together in considering the words of our Creator in the Psalm number 103, verses 1 to 13. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and do not forget all God's kindnesses, who forgives all your iniquity, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns you with steadfast love and mercy, who satisfies you with good as long as you live, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. The Lord works vindication and justice for all those who are oppressed. God's ways made known to Moses and acts to the people of Israel. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. God will not always accuse, nor will anger be kept forever. God does not deal with us according to our sins, nor repay us according to our iniquities. For as the heavens are high above the earth, so great is the steadfast love toward those who fear God. As far as the east is from the west, so far our transgressions are removed from us. As a parent who has compassion for their children, so the Lord has compassion for those who fear God. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Well, how great is this? Here we are. We are at home and we are in the building, and it has been so long since I've preached a Sunday sermon to real people. Over the spring months, there were people in the room, but still there was that camera that you had to preach to. I'm still going to preach to the camera, but I'm going to make eye contact with all of you as well, and I'm going to love every second of it. So I'm glad you're here. Before I jump into preaching, I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege. I've had a bad summer. Some of you have as well. But I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has sent a card, a note, who has sent love, who has offered a prayer, who has reached out in any way, in any form. All love is good. All kindness is appreciated. And so I do thank you for that. So let's jump in, shall we? So you know we live in tough times, right? Not a secret. Absolutely not a secret. But there's still something kind of special about the week after Labor Day. I feel a little bit like this is more of a new year for most people than New Year's actually is. You know, in the middle of winter, we have a celebration, but it's still moving from winter to winter. We've had a week of break, but we haven't, things pretty much go back to the routine they were 2 weeks ago. And but at this time of year, everything is new. Can you feel the difference in the air? Yeah, absolutely. We've kind of mourning maybe the loss of the summer heat, but there's a really awesome crispness in the air. And we can see hints that the colors are going to come soon. And so we're feeling like we've left behind what was before, and we're about to launch into the fall term. For those who go to school, definitely a huge difference in what the fall brings. For those who work from home, maybe not quite as much. And whether or not you choose to go to them, some of your fall activities might be starting up again. I'm sure not all, but perhaps some. So this is a really good time for us to stop and think about what it means to be on the cusp of a new year, but in tough times. And to take a number of Sundays, which we're going to do, and to talk about things that help us to be resilient in tough times, things that help us to carry on and forge ahead even in days that are difficult. And hopefully, most of your days are not that difficult. But still, there's an anxiety in the air this year that is not normal, and we all live in that. So, the first Sunday back, and we are talking about the spiritual practice of forgiveness. Anyone here ever been mad at someone? Some of you aren't putting your hands up. I'm impressed. Today I want to focus not so much on being forgiven, but on actually forgiving. It's not always an easy thing to do. We need to get good at it, though. We need to get good at both giving and receiving it. Don't we pray every single week, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us? It's at the very core of who we are as Christian people, to be a forgiving people. But it's not easy. Today we're going to hear from Peter, the Bible Peter. I love Peter. I love Peter because he seems to be the one who comes closest to understanding who Jesus is. He sees it. He can almost grasp it. Kind of like us, right? We get, to some extent, who Jesus is, but there's something elusive about it too. And Peter always seems to not be able to go that last step, not be able to fully understand. And gosh, I feel like that so many days as well. I get it. It's right there. But I have a ways to go. Peter struggles with what it means to live in Christ's love, often, as do we. So Jesus has been talking about sin, not in the passage we're going to read, but in what came before. He's been talking to his disciples about sin. And so Peter, in his I kind of get it mode, asks a follow-up question to that. And this is where we come in. Peter asks Jesus, how many times do I need to forgive? Now notice here he's not talking about forgiving an enemy. He's talking about forgiving someone from his own community of faith, brother or sister or sibling in faith in Christ. How many times do I need to forgive? There is actually a correct answer in Jesus' world. So Jewish tradition of the day would have said, and Peter and Jesus, both being Jewish, would have known this, that you absolutely must forgive once. To forgive twice is generous. To give a third time is above and beyond. The implication is kind of, if you go ahead and forgive a fourth time, you're kind of, a bit of a fool. So 2 or 3 times would be the right answer. Peter kind of gets things, and so he says to Jesus, 7? Doubling it and adding 1. Smart move, Peter. Thinking that, yes, I know how this works. I need to go bigger. I need to go beyond what's expected of me. 7 is also a biblical number for things that are whole and complete. But poor Peter, yes, valiant effort, but no, not enough. Jesus goes on to say, 77. That's a lot of times to forgive someone, isn't it? It's a lot of times. Jesus then goes on from that conversation to tell a story, and we're going to hear that story. And I need to tell you, spoiler alert, it's pretty harsh at the end. But I'm kind of glad the harsh ending is there, because that harsh ending is going to keep us from being too simplistic about forgiveness and to be able to talk about it at a more real level. Jesus often expresses righteous indignation. We don't always read those passages in church, but it happens. And so Jesus does not use forgiveness to excuse bad behavior. Please know that before we begin. I'm reading from Matthew 18, beginning at verse 21. Then Peter came and said to Jesus, Lord, if a member of the faith community sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? And Jesus said to him, do you remember the answer? Well done. Not 7 times, but I tell you, 77 times. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. And as he could not pay, the Lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and his children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything." And out of pity for him, the Lord of that slave released him and forgave him the debt. But that same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him by the throat, he said, "Pay what you owe me." Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you." But he refused, and then he went and threw him in prison until he could pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord that all that had taken place. Then his lord summoned him and said to him, "You wicked slave, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have had mercy on your fellow slave as I have had mercy on you?" And in anger, his lord handed him over to be tortured until he would pay his entire debt. And so my heavenly Father will also do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart. Wow. Hear what the Spirit is saying to us. Thanks be to God. Isn't that a horrible ending? Okay, so other than the fact that in this it kind of implies that God is doing it, which I don't believe for a second, my friends, I don't. Isn't there something kind of true about this? That when you don't forgive someone, it kind of tortures you a little bit, doesn't it? It does. I think it's realistic. So maybe I'm alone. I'm going to guess not. But sometimes when someone has wronged me in some way, sometimes even a small way, I'll admit, but sometimes what I tend to do, and I think it's very human, is to roll it over in my head again and again and again, always with it sounding good in my favor and never the other person's, if you know what I mean. But I hold on to things, sometimes only for a little while, sometimes for longer than I should. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. Sometimes you even kind of take it out and play with it a little bit, and you feed off it in some way, that sense that you have been wronged. And doesn't it torture your soul just a little bit? Absolutely. I think in this life, some of us have had huge hurts. And I'm going to even go so far as to say ones that are seemingly unforgivable hurts happen against us. And boy, does that torture the soul. Absolutely it does. I don't believe for a second that God wants us to sit with tortured souls. That is not the freedom that God offers. That's not the God that I believe in at any rate. Forgiveness is meant to be something that transforms. Brain cramp, please forgive me. So, if you have been wronged, I am not at all asking you to sweep it under the carpet. I am saying you have every right to ask for things to be made right, because the seeking of justice for the wrong is different than forgiveness. So, forgiveness is what you do in your heart to move towards wholeness, to allow God to come in and transform what you feel and think. It's meant to be something that is freeing and that is an absolute gift of grace. But it does not excuse bad behavior. It does not excuse the other person if they really have wronged you. That is a separate process. What forgiveness is, I love this. Anne Lamott has this wonderful quote. It's not easy, by the way, forgiveness. Anne Lamott says that withholding forgiveness is kind of like drinking rat poison and expecting the rat to die. Because who's tortured when you withhold forgiveness? Okay, Beth and I have had a fight. We haven't. I'm just going to pick on her for a second because I know she can handle it. I'm just so, worked up about what's happened. Beth's going about her day having a good time. She has no clue. I'm the one who's tortured, right? And so when you don't actually seek to forgive in your heart, it's not Beth who's suffering, it's me. And so not forgiving is kind of like torturing yourself. And again, it's not an easy thing. It's not something that happens instantly. You can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to forgive Beth, done. That whole thing about forgiving 77 times, here's the thing with that. Sometimes you need to forgive the same person for the same act all those times. Sometimes if you've been really, really harmed by something or someone, the only way you can survive, the only way you can move forward is by waking up every single morning and finding some place in your heart for forgiveness again and again and again so that you can move through your day. Forgiveness is not denying the problem. Forgiveness is not saying everything's okay now, because sometimes it isn't. But forgiveness is creating that space in your heart where you can let go, even just a little bit, and move on. Nadia Bowles-Weber is a Lutheran pastor who describes who describes the lack of forgiveness as a chain that binds you to the person who has wronged you. I'm going to pick on Beth again. So if Beth has hurt me, I am kind of chained to Beth, right? I'm obsessing about what's happened, and I am absolutely tying myself to her until I can forgive and let that go. And so forgiveness is the breaking of that chain, the freeing yourself from the burden of what has happened so that you can live and live fully and live abundantly and know God in your heart. And yes, one would assume that the seeking of wholeness would follow reconciliation if that's possible. It isn't always. And that relationships would be healed and justice would be sought. But that forgiveness is a letting it take its place in your heart where you are not obsessed by it, where you are letting it go from you and freeing yourself from that. And boy, is that a gift of God. That is a transformative gift of God that changes everything. Forgiveness is finding grace. Forgiveness is finding some peace within yourself. Maybe it's finding peace with the other person. Hopefully it is. As I said, that's not always possible. But forgive anyway, even if you can't find peace with the other person. Trust that you can let those tortured feelings die and begin the process of resurrection. New life. My friends, in these days when we're all a little bit more tense than usual, and usually a little bit more tense means a little bit grumpier, a little bit quicker to anger, maybe a little bit quicker to judge. In these days when we find it difficult to take a deep breath and relax into a future that we are certain about, please take advantage of God's gift of forgiveness. When you have been wronged, seek in your heart to let God fill that place where that obsession used to be, and to free yourself from the burden of what has happened. doesn't make it right. That's a separate process. But boy, it allows grace to live in your life, and it allows you to move forward. And it's good to know that while we forgive others, we are also a forgiven people. And we are called to live each and every day in greater and greater wholeness, in greater and greater love, and greater freedom. Not easy, baby steps, but those baby steps are so incredibly worth it. Thanks be to God who offers us grace every day that we live. And how wonderful is that? Amen.
Love is the touch of intangible joy. Love is the force that no fear can destroy. Love is the goodness we gladly applaud. God is where love is, for love is of God. Love is the lilt in a lingering voice. Love is the hope that can make us rejoice. Love is the cure for the frightened and flawed. God is where love is, for love is of God. Love is the light in the tunnel of pain. Love is the will to be whole once again. Love is the trust of a friend on the road. God is where love is, for love is of God. Love is the maker and spirit and son. Love is the kingdom, their will has begun. Love is the path which the saints all have trod. God is where love is, for love is of God.
So another of our new realities is we're not passing an offering plate. If you have an offering with you, we will gladly accept it. There will be an offering plate on the way out, and you can put your offerings in there. But we still want to, in the context of worshiping God, give thanks for the gifts that you give. You know, this church appreciates everything that it gets, everything that comes to it in terms of your kindness, your labors of love, the things you offer tangibly and intangibly, and of course your financial gifts as well. And so in thanksgiving to God, we join together in prayer. God of wonder and awe, your love gives our lives meaning and fills our hearts with hope. As we seek to live by your Spirit, we offer ourselves and our wealth to the church and to the world. In your name, amen.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, all creatures high and low. Give thanks to God in love made known. Greater word and spirit
Well, that was lovely, wasn't it? Let us join together in the prayers of the people and the Lord's Prayer. Loving and compassionate God, we live in a world where the word forgive seems like an archaic term from the distant past. When we do remember its meaning, it seems more like an adjective describing a sign of weakness than what it truly is, a verb, an action that comes from a place of strength and wisdom. A world without forgiveness is a place where just one mistake can cost us a job, a relationship, your reputation, and all of it is lost forever. A world that becomes colder and harder with technology that records every stumble and remembers it forever. We forget that when a community wanted to stone a woman to death, Jesus was the one to say that anyone in the crowd who was without sin should throw the first stone. The sound of many stones being dropped to the earth must have been remarkable as everyone walked away. We are all forgiving God, a people of second chances, and many more. We timidly gather in this sanctuary like congregations in many sanctuaries like it, resuming carefully in the flesh together worship for the first time in months. Most of us, if not all, have been touched by this pandemic. Elsewhere, storms rage. Great swaths of land are laid waste by fires, turned into firestorms, and war and rage and hate darken the skies. It all seems like a great reckoning, the consequences of abusing your creation and each other, and perhaps it is. We come to you asking for yet another chance to show you that we, at least some of the time, can begin again with greater vigor to become better stewards of the world and all your people. We make bold to pray as Jesus taught us, Creator God, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
May you this day find God's blessing and know God's love deeply and richly. May God fill your life with meaning and relationship and love. May you go forth from this place to be a blessing to all that you meet, and go in the name of peace. Amen.